Right, so today we're going to cover some of the key points of the pigtails making, or the idea, excuse me, the idea of pigtails. And as I said, the core of that you already have by watching the other video that I made, which was the lab preparation. However, there are few more videos and they're short. See, there's one that's 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 2 minutes, all right, 3 minutes. Excuse me. Please watch these videos. That's going to give you a little bit even more idea of what pigtails are about. And in some cases, it might give you more questions than answers, and that's okay, especially when it comes to the idea of pre-twisting or not pre-twisting before applying the connector or the twist connector or the wire nut or moret. Um, on that video, I showed you what my logic is for actually pre-twisting, and I stick by it, and as most of other people will do. And it could be my opinion could be biased, and even if I say, because yeah, wow, you should do what I think, because I think that most people think that way, but I actually do. And the idea is that if there are more than three conductors, there is a chance that one of the conductors is going to find itself in the middle, and it's just going to be compressed by the other three. So it's like, let's say there's a fourth conductor, and there's going to be it's going to be just compressed by the other three. When you apply the wire nut onto it, it is not going to make contact with the thread of the wire nut, and that is not a very happy situation. So when you get the when you pre-twist the connection, you are getting that structural stability to that connection there. I was just talking to one of my friends from Europe, and especially when he spent some time in Netherlands, they use, from what I was told, something that's called a WAGO type of connector, and I'm not going to touch on that. But I just want you to know that something like that exists. When you are buying those WAGO connectors, and some of those WAGO type of connection, it's like a lever that you just strip the wire, insert that into the slot, and close the lever on it. Just be careful when you're buying those things, and be careful where you're buying these things from, because there could be some legit WAGO connectors, and there could be some, I wouldn't say imitations, but something like that. And you just have to use your own judgment. Those WAGO connectors also can be used here, but in North America, we're mostly sticking to the twist-on connectors, and sometimes you're going to hear the word moret, because moret is a brand that was doing producing those things for the most part, and quite often you're going to see, can you give me some morets? It's just like the photocopier business. Can you Xerox those papers? Things like that, okay? Or Romex when it comes to NMD 90 cable, right? Romex was the prime kind of manufacturer for a long time, and it's just stuck that people would call it Romex. So sometimes you're going to hear this terminology that says morets, but also wire nuts or twist on or twist connectors, right? And that's what the pigtails look like when they are in the box. And you can also watch the video on how I propose that you're going to construct that. Now, here is the pre-twist or not to pre-twist. You want all the conductors that are within the. I wish that that little pop-up thing would not appear when I am pointing with my mouse. If anybody knows how to get rid of that with Adobe Acrobat, I would appreciate that. I tried to look for at the internet, and nothing. Anyways, uh, so what do we have here? Yeah, okay. So you want the thread to make contact with all the wires, and if you cross section that, um, pretty much for me it's a slam dunk kind of a case that those conductors should be pre-twisted. But in some cases, even on the boxes of the connectors, they say no need to pre-twist. Use your own judgment, use your own education now, or educated judgment. Right, so not just make up your mind because eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'm just going to go left or right with this one. Now, you know, some of my perspective on the structure that's needed there. Okay, as far well, the connectors are of different brands, and sometimes you're going to say, okay, the orange connectors are of certain size, the yellow connectors are of certain size. Yeah, for the most part you can say that, but it also, you know, you can't go by that 100%, because there's now everybody and their brother is making those, and they sometimes they try to introduce their own marking or their own coloring scheme or something like that. Well, when it comes to the size of the twist on connectors, um, then you might want to read the box, and this is the ideal box. Not because it's ideal, there's no better than that, but it's the ideal as the brand. Okay, and these are the ones that we're using in our school. Okay, and here's the information on this box. So just take a look at, before you use it, just take a look. But sometimes even if you don't read that with enough experience, you're going to be able to tell whether the connection you're making is safe or not. What was it? I heard some kind of a cool thing the other day. It's the what is it? The head twist test or something like that. It's just when you're looking at this, whatever you have done, and when after you're looking at it, your head goes like this, that means something is wrong with it, and then you're going to have to repeat that. The other thing is that if whenever you made a connection or any kind of thing that have to do with whatever project you're doing, it could be a solder joint or could be whatever you do, and if you are wondering whether this thing is done right or not, then it's probably done wrong if you're wondering. Okay. If you say, yep, right away, I like it, you get a good feeling about it, then it's probably good. But if you just start looking at it from, you know, up and down, and you twist your head, and that means you are convincing your own self that whatever you have done is good, which is probably wrong if you have to convince yourself. All right. So with the time, as the time goes along, you're going to get a pretty good feel on the connections that you're going to make. However, you also should read what's on the box. And this is the magnified picture of the sticker that's on the box that I took a couple years ago, maybe a year ago. What does it say on this thing? Listed is a pressure. So now I see here they're calling a pressure type of connector, wire connector. Twist on connector, wire nut, pressure type connector. Um, for use on solid or stranded wire combinations. Well, there's one thing I'm going to say that I absolutely, well, I'm not going to say hate because I don't have any emotional content with that. However, um, I'm not really too fond of connecting wires or joining conductors that are combination of solid and stranded. You always end up with the stranded wire wrapping itself around the solid. I'm not sure how to solve that with this. I would just choose, when that happens, I would just choose different type of connection, different type of connector. I'll try to avoid, but sometimes you can't avoid, and you're just going to, and and you're still legal when you do that. But personally, I don't like that, because you get a tendency to have a wrap around, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, because the stranded conductor is much softer in structure than the solid one, and it's always going to wrap itself around it. Okay, enough said. All right, so let's read it again. Listed as a so here's the wire nut or those connectors here. That's what's in the box, and that's here. I took a picture of this sticker here. So it's a pressure wire connector for use on solid and or stranded wire combinations. And here is the information. The minimum that you can use is 3 of the 22 gauge. So 22 gauge are pretty thin wires. Sometimes when you see uh, those hookup wires for your breadboards, those solid ones, they are 22 gauge. You know, some of them are 24, but most of them are 22 gauge. So they're not that thick. They are thin wires. So if you have not enough meat on the bone on the contents there, the wire nut or the twist on or the wire connector is not going to be able to grab onto it, because the size of its thread, it's of certain size, and if you have things, if you can't fill it up enough, those threads are just won't be able to grab it. So that's what they mean by minimum. So minimum 3 of 22 gauge conductors, maximum, you see 22, there's 10 gauge, maximum of 3 of gauge 10 conductors, because then if you get more than 3 gauge 10 conductors, then that thread size here is going to be too small. It won't be able to grab it and secure it physically properly. Okay, so, and then there's that, excuse me, early morning, and then there's that more information right below it. It says, and most applications in between and including 1 to 3 gauge 12 and 4 to 12, but solid only. Okay, now then 1 to 5 gauge 14 conductors. Well, I say 1. Sometimes you just need to blind the wire so it doesn't get shorted, not shorter, shorted. So it doesn't short to, or short circuit. It doesn't touch the any kind of surface. Like for example, right now the new rule of the code is that whenever you pull wires in a system, you should have a neutral conductor pulled to every box. Well, even if you don't use it at that moment, maybe something is going to change and you will need it later on. I guess that's the reasoning. So you should have neutral conductor pulled to every box. And if there is that last box that the neutral goes to and it's not being used, you're not going to just cut it and leave it hanging there, because even if you don't strip the jacketing of that wire, that tip of it still has enough copper to possibly touch to some other things and cause some trouble. So you just blind it. You just take that wire nut and put it on that one single conductor, twist it on, just so it is separated electrically from everything else. Right. So that's why it says 1, because you know some of us might be wondering why do we put the wire connector on one conductor when we're not connecting. That's the reasoning, because there is that still the possibility is that that piece of copper that is just there on the tip there, it can actually touch something. And what is the what next? So I can have 3 number 12. Okay, so here's how you read this thing here. You can have 4 number 14 gauge with is the W here, okay? So that means width. So 4, 14, with 2, gauge 16, or 312 with 318. So, you know, the different possible combinations of that. And, well, as they say, and the rest is French. Okay, so now you know the rest of the story. And there's some warranty limiting warranty thing and stuff like that. So please watch that video on lab 3. Please also watch the video on lab 4. It's going to help you a lot, and we're still going to touch on to the pipe bending. From now on, I will always try to throw something as far as pipe bending, because it's never going to be enough. You're going to be working 20 years in business, and when it comes to pipe bending, there's always probably going to be some room for you to learn a little bit more. But now you're starting out, you're starting with this, so whatever I give you with the time that we have, it will never be enough, but whatever I give you is going to be beneficial for you, right? So I'll always be throwing something in as far as pipe bending, mentioning this or that and the other thing. Okay, so enough about the pigtails. Please watch those videos. Especially the one that says the truth about electrical fires. Now, this is a YouTube video, and sometimes I'm playing that different YouTube videos that we're allowed to play in class when we have in-person lectures. But this term we were assigned the online classes, so we're just going to have that. So I'm just going to recommend, please watch it. Do not ignore it. Just because the lesson has ended doesn't mean your learning has ended. Your learning will never stop. Same as mine, same as everybody else. You learn till your last breath. Okay. And then if you're good about it, you can make the learning process continue, that other people can learn from you after your last breath. But let's not get too philosophical. It's Monday morning, 8 o'clock. All right. Okay. All right. So now we're going to start on the ladders. Okay. Because we have the two topics that are kind of related to each other. One is the ladders, and the other one is the scaffolds. All right, let's talk about the ladders. I wonder if this is going to be better. Okay. Scaffolds and ladders. So first we're going to talk about the ladders. That's what the scaffold looks like, and that's what a ladder looks like. Okay, lesson done. Go home. Not yet. Section 1, let's say, not section 1, but section 1 of this slideshow. Overview. Let's take a look at some of the facts that that are associated with some of this thing. So what does it say here? Fatalities, which means deaths. Okay, and there's no way to, no, there's nothing that I can say gently. Death is death. Okay, I'm trying to prevent you from experiencing death. All right. So fatalities by event of exposure, and this is in residential construction. This is some statistics that were pulled from some place. And here's the thing about that: wherever you go, things are going to be similar to that. So let's see the pie chart of death. Okay. Um, fatalities by event or exposure in residential construction. So these are all 100% of the deaths that occurred between 2003 and 2006. Right? Excuse me. Well, falls take the cake of the pie chart. About 45% of all the fatalities in within those 3 years. Okay, some of it 2% fires and explosions, assaults and violence acts. Now sometimes that that increases as the economy goes down. Transportation accidents, well, car accidents and whatnot, 14%. Exposure to harmful substances, it's about 18%, and contacts with objects or equipment otherwise would be another 18%. So falls, you can tell that that really take the big chunk of this pie chart. Now we're going to take just the falls and examine the types of falls. So that's the next slide. Okay, here. Okay, so this is just the falls. The next slide. All right. So falls from the roof. Look at that. That's 40%. When talking, well, I'm talking about you being the future electricians. Um, well, rarely you're going to get onto the roof because that's most of the roofers jobs. But nevertheless, that's what the statistics say. Falls from the roof. Take the cake on that. What's the next? Oh, falls from ladder. That's 20. That's a huge thing. Falls from ladder. Ladder sometimes can be really innocent. And here's the thing about, I'm just going to give you some sort of analogy. When people get their driver's licenses, when is it that they are the most prone to get into a car accident after they get their license? Some statistics say that it is about a year after a person gets the driver's license. Why is that? It is because before that year of driving, you're still not 100% sure, so you are being extra careful. So when you're being extra careful, then you're less prone to get into an accident. Then after about a year, you think that, I'm comfortable. No problem. I can do it. I can relax now because I'm driving for a year. So I think I'm pretty experienced now, so I can relax and pay attention to other things. I can drink coffee while I'm doing this. I can eat a sandwich. I can whatever. Boom! Here's the accident. Okay, because at this time enough just to be dangerous. That's another expression. So be extra careful after the first year of you getting the driver's license, because that's the false sense of security that you're going to convince yourself towards, and that's when you get to an accident. You relax too much because you think and I've been there too. I hope lucky that I didn't experience getting into an accident that way, but you will know what I mean right now. Okay, so here's the same thing with the ladders. When my first ever stepping onto a ladder, every step I took up, wow, whoa, the ground is getting smaller. Wow, but then after a while, you get comfortable and you lean over too far, you and did I have some of the close call situations over the 30 years that I have done certain jobs that involve ladders? Yes, I did have some close calls. Where some of those close calls were they caused by my negligence and by my inexperience and by my ignorance? I have to confess, yes, some of them were mine. Luckily, nothing happened to me, but I have seen people fall from the ladder, and let me tell you, that 10 feet up in the air doesn't look like much, but until you fall, and or you see somebody else fall from that 10 feet height, and sometimes it's not a pretty sight. That's all I'm going to say. Right, so here is the falls from ladders. These are all the fatalities that people actually have died. that means more of them have fallen and just got hurt, without dying. Excuse me. So ladder safety takes a lot of the pie chart, and then falling from scaffold staging or scaffold. Then there's 15%. Then what's the 9%? Fall to a lower level, unspecified or not elsewhere classified. So unclassified from higher to lower level. Right? Then what's the 8%? Excuse me. I know the microphone carries that more than I want to. Falls from the floor, dock, or ground level. So that would be the 8%. And then the rest would be from falls from non-moving vehicle, falls from building, structure, any other structural platforms or surfaces of the building, other unspecified, and then here's the falls on the same level and falls downstairs or steps. So just because it's 1%, that doesn't mean that it should be ignored, because it doesn't matter for that person to be that 1%. For that person, that's their whole life. Okay, even though there's not big statistic numbers. Okay, so also what's going to happen when you're going to join the workforce, whenever you walk onto like a construction site, you are going, and it's your first day, maybe it's a longer project, you're going to stay there, so you're going to have to go through the it doesn't matter if you're going to stay on that site 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or you're going to just for one day to do something. A letter is going to be sent to you if you own a business, or to your boss if you work for somebody else, that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter who you know, it doesn't matter who you don't know. First day you're going to have to spend with the safety officer, and they're going to give you a safety briefing. It has to be done. Right? And at the end, you're going to have a little bit of a written kind of evaluation, and maybe they're going to talk to you just to get the feel of what kind of person you are, and just to see if there's any red flags with your behavior. So at one of them, I was asked, it was some years ago, and the site was, I think it was the St. Joseph's Hospital in Hamilton, Ontario. At the end of the safety briefing, which was most of the day, that safety officer, before he kind of released me, he asked me, well, what do you think? How high do you have to be to get yourself hurt? And like on the ladder or whatever, how high do you have to be to get yourself hurt if you fall down? Well, my answer was, you could be sitting in a chair and you can fall down and you can hurt yourself. You could be sitting on the ground and you can fall sideways and you can get hurt. So there is no specified height. You can get hurt from any height. The higher you get, the more severe the injury might become. And that was a good answer. Yeah. Of course, it was a good answer. All right, so let's keep going with this ladders here. Here, I'm just going to use the section 2 of this slideshow, ladder and stairway safety. All right. Common ladder hazards. Right? They would include, what do we have? Improper setup. Ladder is a portable device, so it has to be set up. And it not only that it has to be set up before you use it, it has to be set up properly. Guys, that's the key. It has to be set up properly. Portable ladders not 3 feet above the landing surface. Keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to, that's coming up to actually see what that means, right? Excuse me. Not securing the ladder correctly. Right? well, the ladder can fall, and guess what? You're on it. So if the ladder falls, you're falling with it. All right. Nothing funny about that. Standing on the top two steps of a step ladder. So if you step too high, um, overreaching when working from a ladder. These two are probably the most common ones that are being abused a lot. Okay. And if you're on the construction site, if the safety officer, because when he's not training people, he or she, they are going to be walking the hallways of the construction site, and they'll be watching. And if they see you do any of that, that is not, you're not supposed to do, quite often you can find yourself kicked out of the site before you even start your job. And they are serious about that. Okay, I moved the mouse, but nothing happened. Here, is that the one? Okay, let's take a look at some of the anatomy of the step ladder. So this is a typical step ladder. Okay? It has the steps. What do we have? Some of the most common thing. Here's the top cap of that. You are not supposed to be standing on that. Here's the second last step, because these are the steps. You're not supposed to be standing on that. The highest you can step on the step ladder is the third last step. So not the top one, second last step. If you include the top cap, but it's not in, so okay. So here's the last step and the one before that. So if you go from the top, 1, 2, 3, that's where your feet can be the highest on the step ladder. And what do we have? We have the front rails, we have the rear rails, and we have the braces, and we have the foot pad, and the feet. So it's the front foot with the foot pad. Here's the rear foot. Uh, you're not supposed to be standing on the braces. It's not meant, it's not designed for you to stand on. And of course, you're not supposed to be sitting on it's called a pale shelf. Well, if you're a painter or whatever, you can just put some stuff on top here. So the step ladder, and here is the spreader assembly. So when you're transporting the ladder, you can just close those off, and you can fold that ladder, that the front rail comes close to the rear rail, and the pail bucket, shelf just folds up, and you can carry that, or you can transport that in your van or whatever else, or you can hang it on the wall, right? So we're going to go, this is just the anatomy of the step ladder. Let's okay, here, move, mouse, move. Choosing the right ladder. Before stepping onto a ladder, you should think about these things. Duty rating of the ladder, what capacity it can hold. We'll talk about that too later on. Height of the ladder, is it too short or is it too tall? And here's a big one that takes the cake sometimes, or more often than not: condition of the ladder and instructions unique to that particular ladder. Duty ratings. All right, here's the type of the ladder, duty rating, use, general use, and the load. So select a ladder with the proper duty rating for your weight and the materials that you're holding. Okay, so here's the type 3. It's considered a light duty ladder, and it's meant for general household use. Right? And it is supposed to handle 200 pounds. I cannot use that ladder. All right. Now, here is the type 2 ladder, and it's considered a medium duty. It can be used in the commercial applications, and it's supposed to handle 225 pounds. Sometimes I can use this ladder and sometimes I can't. After Christmas, I can't use that ladder. Now, here's type 1. It's considered heavy duty and it's for industrial use, of course, commercial as well. And it's supposed to handle 250 pounds. Yeah, I can use that ladder. Then there's 1A extra heavy duty industrial, 300 pounds, and one with the double A special duty rugged ladder, and it's supposed to handle 375 pounds. Now, here's the thing about these ratings of the ladder. The light duty, it is going to be, aside from the name of light duty, it is going to be the lightest to carry, and it's meant for household use. Well, if you buy that ladder, and these, of course, the prices go up as the rating goes up or the type goes up. All right, excuse me. So yeah, this will be the cheapest ladder. If you buy one of those and try to use it commercially, or God forbid in the industrial environment, yes, you're going to save some money when you're buying it at the moment that you're buying. But when you're using this thing for anything else in the household, you just think about it. You take that ladder, use it, and you fold it and put it away. Until the next time you use it, maybe it's going to be 2 months from now. And when you're using the tools for work, you're using this thing 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday. This thing is going to dissolve under your feet before you know. But before it dissolves under your feet, it is going to let go, and sometimes with you on it. Not a happy thing. So are you really saving money? Well, even if nothing happens to you, you keep buying those every month or month and a half or so. And trust me, it's going to cost you way more than you got if you bought the commercial rating. Right? So for commercial, that's where you would start, no less than that. I would recommend that type 1 heavy duty industrial, right? It can hold more pounds, but also what goes with it is that it can take more abuse, so to speak, because on the construction side or in the industrial environment, you are dragging this thing, you're putting it up, you're folding it down, you're walking on it, you are dragging it again, sometimes you hit something with it 8 hours a day. Right? So you need to have something that is going to take all that abuse, physical abuse, right? Well, you can't mentally abuse a ladder, but you can always try. Right? Anyways, so then a little bit more expensive, and of course those are heavier to carry than that. So here's the little compromise. When you're doing, well, as an electrician, you will be doing some installations, maybe some wire pulling in the ceiling, maybe some installation of some devices in the ceiling, or you're going to have to get up a lot with some of the ladders, and sometimes it's going to, well, the job is going to involve carrying and placing it in different spots a lot and very frequently. So every time you have to pick up that load, it's, so some people might choose to have a little bit lighter ladder, because if you have to pick it up and put it there, pick it up and put it there, pick it up and put it there. But after a while, when you get used to the little bit heavier one, you're not thinking about it. Your muscles get adjusted to that, and um, you can explain that to yourself and convince yourself that maybe it's a good exercise as well. All right. So but the thing is that the heavier ladder, it can hold you in a more secure way. Excuse me. And it is not going to get damaged as quickly as some of the lighter duty ladders. Right now, some of the heavier would be the heavy fiberglass ladder. When you see those ladders that um, people are using, especially the communications people, when you see like a Rogers van or some other Bell Canada van or whatever else company, uh, and they are working on those communication wires. Those are huge extension ladders. These are not step ladders, and they are ragged. They are actually heavy. Some of them it would take two people to set up because how heavy those things are, right? So, but you don't want to have like a medium duty extension ladder on that height, especially when some of that the moving is in place and you have to walk up to it and the whole thing just starts bowing on you under you. That's not a very happy situation, and it takes only a fraction of a second to fall sometimes, and in that fraction of a second your whole life can change if you can keep it right. So here are the ratings or types of the ladders, and you're going to see there's some stickers on that as well. Okay, I just moved the mouse, and today I noticed that whenever I move the mouse it takes a little bit. Okay, so here are some of the stickers on the ladders. All right, so here's a step ladder ID label, and here's an extension ladder ID label. So right away you can see some of the weight that it's supposed to support. Okay, then duty rating is going to tell you the type of the ladder. I know it's kind of blurry, but we know what the type from the previous slides, so it's going to show you that. Ladder size, so here's the step ladder, 6-foot step ladder. And here's the extension ladder. I'm going to talk about what extension ladder is. Of course, it's going to be longer, 20, 24 feet or whatnot. Maximum reach, 10 feet, and why. So see, here's the 24 step ladder, extension ladder, and you can reach 23 feet from that whenever you're working on something. Yeah. Well, why is 23 feet? Well, because at your height, average height person, and you're not supposed to be standing on the second last steps or the three last steps, then add that average reach. You can reach up to 23 feet, and the 6-foot ladder, when you step down on the second last step, which is the third from the top, it's going to be 10 feet, taking an average person's height. All right, highest standing level, so that's where the highest you can put your feet on. And here is some other logistic information. So the model ID number and your PC code. So you're going to see, look at those stickers, see what the type is, based on that, this slide that we just saw. Okay, now let's load. I just moved the mouse, and let's wait a couple of seconds for the keyboard. All right, so here is an example of an extension ladder. Okay, as opposed to a step ladder. So remember when we're talking about it has to extend 3 feet above the landing surface. So here is the bottom level. That's where you're standing. You're climbing the ladder and you're going to reach your landing surface. That's your landing surface. Extension ladder has to be extended. Well, it works as an extension ladder, but the the top of the ladder has to be 3 feet above the landing surface, so you actually have something to hold on to when you're climbing. Okay, now it is 10 to 9 right now, so that's where we're going to stop, and we're going to continue with that with the ladders next time I see you, which is going to be, I think it's Friday, if I'm not mistaken. All right, cool. So well, have a wonderful rest of the week, and as I always say, it is Friday, not a Friday, it is almost Friday. I know it's Monday 9 o'clock right now AM, but if you think about that, it's almost Friday, it is going to be so much easier for you to get through the week. Anyways, have a good one, and I'll see you when I see you. Bye guys.